Diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure, TB, hepatitis, asthma, any past mental health issues?
No.
Substance abuse, alcohol, drugs? No. Medications you take?
This is what awaits anyone who has been arrested and is booked into Seattle's King County jail system. The scene is repeated daily in jails across the United States. All of these people will get a court date. Some will be convicted. Many will do time.
All residents outside, return back to your dorms. Residents outside, return back to your dorms.
And this is where a few of them will do their time. The North Rehabilitation Facility, NRF, part of the King County jail system. But the time these inmates are doing is unlike anything in any other jail in the United States. They are practicing an ancient meditation technique called Vipassana. It is changing their lives, even as it changes NRF itself. Vipassana is a word from the ancient Indian language, Pali. It means to see things as they really are. Vipassana dates back more than 2,500 years, yet its relevance and value to modern society is undiminished. Through its practice, people from all walks of life and backgrounds work to transform their lives. They bring balance and peace into an otherwise tumultuous existence. But Vipassana is not an easy journey or a quick fix. It's not the sort of thing most prisoners would want to take on to pass the time. Yet some choose to.
I think this can have a beneficial effect if for no other reason than it really is a form of mental boot camp. And if you are of the mind that what offenders need is to learn how to discipline themselves, to learn about themselves, to learn a moral code, and to practice that moral code, and to be willing to endure difficulty and discomfort in order to achieve that. If you're of that belief, this is what you want to do.
NRF is a minimum security facility operated by the King County Health Department under contract with the Department of Adult Detention. Beyond incarceration, NRF seeks to provide inmate treatment with a focus on drug and alcohol abuse.
How many are in jail either directly or indirectly because of alcohol and drug use?
There are also classes on smoking cessation, self-esteem, critical thinking, emotional literacy, high school equivalency and vocational training, even acupuncture and Tai Chi. Inmates here are called residents, and they enjoy many personal privileges not granted in other jail facilities. There are no cells, no walls, no guns, no lockups. Many King County inmates think the time spent here will be easy time, but facility administrator Lucia Major and her staff have something else in mind.
Okay.
We try to keep every resident here occupied with some meaningful activity. Now, there's always those who can just do the minimum. But after they've been here for a while, we're going to start to pressure them to get involved, either in work and vocational activities or treatment activities or both. And typically they do.
I've participated in family groups and in parenting class, and the NA class, and AA class, and critical thinking, and acupuncture. I almost did almost all of them. I've already tried to go to treatment 2 times, but, I never completed it. I always left, and now this time, I'm taking more advantage of it and learning a lot more about myself.
It's no secret that the public, and even many professionals, have lost enthusiasm for rehabilitation and treatment programs. Recidivism seems to continue unabated. The revolving door syndrome is discouraging to everyone, staff and resident alike. Yet Lucia and her staff, with the support of King County Health and Corrections officials, continue to institute programs that can help residents turn their lives around.
Attention all residents, need the door monitors.
Dean McGuire is head of security at NERF, a veteran with 20-plus years as a corrections officer. If anyone harbors few illusions about the likelihood of change in this population, it's Dean.
If you want people to change themselves, if you want inmates to stop being inmates and to become productive citizens, I believe that the residents, inmates have to, it's on them. And what we can do is provide a way for them to look at themselves, to look at their cravings, and to try to change what's wrong.
NERF is a direct supervision facility with security personnel right there with the residents to monitor behavior and activity on a continuous basis.
Jones.
Count on everybody coming in through the west hallway.
Lane Moore has been a staff security officer at NERF for 11 years. She has watched the treatment program evolve at NERF.
I always felt that even though we have a great program and we have Tai Chi and we have anger management and all of these classes, self-esteem, which is all good, I always felt that there was something missing here, and which was looking at the spiritual side of a person. And several times I asked a counselor, why do we not have a meditation class here?
So when you go outside, are you working outside here?
Lane wasn't the only one asking these questions. Ben Turner is a family nurse practitioner for King County's Corrections and has been working with the inmates at NERF for over 5 years. He is also a longtime practitioner of Vipassana meditation. It was on his return from a long course in India that he first proposed to Lucia the idea of a Vipassana course at NERF for residents.
This is an amazing facility, and that Lucia herself understands that people can change, understands that's the real reason that they come here. You know, that they don't come here just to be kept away from society and hang out and talk. You know, they come here to change. And so she was very interested in this technique.
He came one day and we had a meeting with he and Rick Crutcher. And so they said, well, now what about this? Would you like to do a meditation course here? And I said, oh, that's nice. Everybody will get relaxed and happy, and that'll be a good thing. And they both kind of laughed at me and said, well, it's a little more complicated than that. And then they started to sort of feed it to me in little bits, you know, little digestible bits. They said, well, it's actually a 10-day course. I said, well, gee, okay, so we're talking about a smaller group. Oh, yes, and it's total silence, and it's 24 hours a day. And I'm thinking, oh, my, well, okay, well, we might be able to set something up, make some accommodation for that. And would have to have, of course, the teacher and the program manager and so on, you know, stay there. Now I'm starting to get really concerned for security reasons, and so I thought, well, okay, I said, we can at least have a discussion about it. And then after all that, they said, oh, no, we can't. And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, you have to take the course first, they said. And I said, well, what's it like? And they said, oh, you know, you go to this nice place out in the country. It's far away from everything. It's total silence, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, well, gee, you know, I haven't had a vacation for a very long time. And wouldn't it be lovely to just sit on my butt for 10 days and, you know, introspect and be peaceful? And gosh, you know, that actually sounds kind of nice. So I said, sure. And after quite a few delays, I actually took the course and learned that it was much more than sitting on my ass for 10 days introspecting, that it was in some ways an ordeal, a very deep and difficult journey. And when I came out of it, I was so grateful. And just coming right out of it, I was meeting already with Rick and Ben about making it happen here.
Typically, retreats are held at one of the more than 45 Vipassana centers worldwide. Of paramount importance during a course is strict silence, called noble silence, when maintained for the purposes of introspection. On a course, any sources of distraction, books, TV, radio, phones, or mail, are all eliminated.
I felt at the time that all the inmates would just drop out, that they would not participate. They would not give up smoking. They would not give up their commissary, their visits, their mail, their television, their telephones, and their talking for 10 days. When I was told that, I said, well, I don't think so. But I said, heck, go ahead, you know.
To maintain noble silence and minimize distractions, prisoners on a course need to be housed separately from other non-course inmates. They require their own dormitory, their own vegetarian diet, even their own exercise area. All of this presented a daunting challenge to the NERF staff. The only possible facility was the then-occupied wing of 13 South.
We had to engineer a unit that we typically use for office space and counseling rooms and classrooms and records keeping. We had to turn that into a residence. We had to build a soundproof wall with a door. We had to install hot water heaters for the showers, which had not been operated for probably 40 years. We had to create a meditation hall. We had to vacate office space, so counselors and office staff had to move out of their offices so that they could be converted to dormitories and sleeping areas and server areas. Our head cook had to learn a vegetarian menu. It was very moving to me. Every time Rick or one of the other Vipassana volunteers would say, well, can we do this or can we do it this way? I would say, oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know if staff will go along with that, and probably not. And then staff would surprise me by saying, sure, no problem, no problem. So there was something about this event that I think inspired everybody, and they wanted to see it work.
Okay, guys, line up on the left-hand side of the wall.
As a direct supervision facility, NERF depends on over 20 compulsory head counts a day. In contrast, and potentially conflict, a meditation course relies on minimal distractions and interruptions. How then could a Vipassana course be conducted without compromising security?
We had to somehow integrate security right into the program. And fortunately, Ben Turner, who is jail personnel, was able to be the program manager, and with help from our security managers here, he was able to take on a lot of the responsibility for calling in the head counts, and he could also make sure that he's accustomed to observing behaviors and intervening in a timely way before they become a problem. So it became necessary to have that component. We also needed a lot of cooperation from security because it meant that they would have to also monitor periodically what was going on there, which meant leaving the usual perimeter within which they operate and making a special trip over there and understanding what was going on and being of minimal intrusiveness.
The first Vipassana meditation course offered in a North American prison began on October 28, 1997. By the third day, 5 of the 16 men had dropped out, but the remaining 11 completed the 10-day course with remarkable results.
Everything that I've experienced in this course, in this last 10 days, I know will last me a lifetime.
Their experiences were recorded on a home video camera and subsequently shown to the next group of potential course participants.
There
will be 4 other women coming in who are old students.
At their own request, the next course was arranged for women inmates. Despite their interest, some of the women have strong apprehensions. Their concerns range from the spiritual,
because I am concerned about it being outside of the realm of God,
to the mundane.
You have to sit still the whole entire time? No, you're sitting in meditation for up to an hour at a time. So when you're actually meditating...
Kathy Henry, a Vipassana assistant teacher, will be the manager of the women's course.
Throw everything away that you read in that book about any religion. Anything you read
The
about
words of
Buddha
Richard
and his
Jimerson,
teachings, throw
an
it out,
ex-resident who
because
took
it's
the
not
first
religion.
course, have a profound effect on the women. Some of them know him from the streets and are struck by the evident changes they see.
My mom went down to take a course. So if my mom went, you know that it's got to have something to it because she works in a Christian church.
Fears about conversion to another religion may persist until one actually takes a 10-day Vipassana course and sees for oneself what it is and what it is not. In Vipassana, the Buddha found a way to alleviate human suffering and bring peace through the practice of self-observation. He encouraged others not to take his word on this or to merely believe, but to undertake the practice and experience the results for themselves.
I don't think that when people really practice and understand Vipassana meditation, that they find a conflict with their beliefs, philosophical or religious. And that's one reason why these courses are 10-day courses, because each day you learn a little bit more and you practice and you understand. And the theory and the practice goes together. So it's not just dealing with abstract concepts. And in fact, people from so many religions, continue to take courses, continue to practice, and don't find a conflict at all.
In the end, 7 women sign up for the 10-day Vipassana course. They have all been in and out of jails, some for most of their adult lives. Their typical crimes are theft, prostitution, shoplifting, drug dealing, and assault. Most of them have an alcohol or drug abuse problem. Most of them have children.
Right before I came in, I was in a really bad way. I was a heroin addict and pretty close to death. It was bad. And I was tired of that, and I kicked, and that was hell. And I knew that if I went back out there that I might not make it, you know, very much longer. So I knew that I had to do something. And that's what brought me to the stages of change. And at first I tried to lie, I tried to kid, you know, because I was afraid. I was afraid to uncover things within myself that I've been running from all my life. But they just kept persevering, and, you know, and finally I just became not submissive, but I surrendered. It was exciting to me to keep finding all these new things about myself. But yet I still had some issues, you know, and I still have some issues that need to be addressed, and they have to be addressed by me and only me. And when I went, I was chosen by the staff to go to the coming out ceremony for the men. And a couple of the men I knew from the streets, and they were what they consider themselves soldiers, you know. And I couldn't believe the change that I had seen and, you know, from that moment, I knew that I wanted to do this.
With some infrastructure already in place, it was much easier for inmates, staff, and Vipassana volunteers to prepare for the women's course. As with any detention facility, security is the priority. The Vipassana volunteers serving the course got a crash course themselves in prison policy from the head of security.
These volunteers had very few problems, have caused us very few problems, and as compared to many other folks that have come in the facility, they've been excellent.
The thing that convinced us, or that convinced me, that the people who were volunteering to help run the Vipassana program were okay, was not just the fact that they passed their background checks and that they had a long-standing affiliation with the Vipassana community and were upstanding citizens. It was also their single-minded purpose that they had, that it was clear that they were coming here to teach Vipassana, not to have personal relationships with the residents, not to give or get anything outside of the boundaries of Vipassana.
Everyone who works on a Vipassana course does so out of a sense of service and generosity. As on any course, they are paid nothing for their efforts. This keeps Vipassana free of commercialism and ensures the purity of spirit in which it is offered. In fact, all Vipassana centers worldwide are run on donations and service from students who have already taken a course.
The way that our practice has worked for centuries and continues to is that one way of expressing gratitude for the benefits that we've gained is by helping others, by being able to serve others in a variety of ways. And those ways can be from sweeping the floors to pushing in the food to as being the assistant teacher on a course.
The evening before the course begins, the women are brought over to the wing housing the makeshift meditation center. A sense of anticipation radiates among everyone here.
She's been here many, many, many times. She has been arrested for theft and prostitution most of the time. A few small drug things in there. She has absolutely no belief in herself or her abilities to be anything other than she is. It's my hope that she will be able to rise above those beliefs that she has about herself and the beliefs that she's been given from whoever. She'll be able to rise above that and see what she really is capable of doing and being.
If you don't get up, then we'll come and check and make sure that everybody did.
Before the course begins, Kathy Henry runs through the course schedule and structure of the next 10 days. The Women's Day starts at 4 a.m., during which they will meditate for more than 10 hours. They will be taught 2 meditation techniques. First, Anapana, or observation of breath for concentration, and then Vipassana, observation of sensations, revealing the ever-changing nature of body and mind for self-knowledge, leading to self-transformation. There will be time for meals and rest, and a chance to talk with the teacher. Each day concludes with an hour-long videotaped discourse by the principal teacher, S.N. Goenka, to help the students better understand their practice and the purpose of the technique.
By learning to understand themselves better at this level, it helps them to make better decisions, will keep them from acting impulsively. It really gets to the root of the addictions, because while it seems like it's those outside things, whatever it is that we're craving for that's the problem, or the object of the anger that's making us angry, or the outside thing that's causing us to fear, when you meditate and really understand what's going on within yourself, you realize that all of this is coming from within. And by learning, by being able to observe what's happening within oneself, it's so strengthening and so helpful in terms of living a more balanced life.
Hour after hour, though they sat together, each woman fought her own separate battle. The course was no less difficult for them than it was for the men. The challenge of remaining detached and balanced, despite the intensity of the experience, at times seemed overwhelming. The meditation program has 3 essential parts. The first is a code of basic moral conduct. For the duration of the 10 days, students vow to abstain from killing, from stealing, from sexual misconduct, from lying, and from using any intoxicants. Next comes the practice of concentration, or mastery over the mind. In Anapana, students observe their own respiration. They work at focusing their attention on the breath as it enters and leaves the nostrils. As students practice the technique, they experience the turbulent and nearly uncontrollable activity of their own mind. Thoughts, memories, emotions, reveries, even songs arise to overwhelm one's attention. Little by little, the student learns to focus their attention and master the wildness of their own mind. Finally, they will use their heightened concentration to develop insight into their own nature. As they sit quietly, students practice objectively observing the changing flow of sensations, whether pleasant or unpleasant, that arise in the body. They begin to understand the origins of their thoughts and behavior at a deeper level, beyond the intellectual realm of ideas and concepts, at the experiential level. Gradually, they develop detachment toward the compulsive cravings and aversions which control them. This is the beginning of self-knowledge, or wisdom. In India, initial courses proved of such benefit that some of the prisons now have permanent meditation centers within the facilities themselves. Courses are offered on a voluntary basis every month, served in part by prison inmates. Moreover, the Indian government has recommended that Vipassana be introduced throughout the prison system as an effective reform tool. Vipassana volunteers believe that this success can be repeated in North American prisons as well.
I saw dramatic results in the inmates that participated in the meditation. I saw honesty. I saw these residents being honest about themselves. I saw them being very open and also not bothered by the rules. The rules were okay. You know, everything was just, and I don't mean they were all tranquil. I don't mean that. They weren't necessarily tranquil. They were just okay with stuff. The security staff was here for a reason. The rules were here for a reason. That was what made me see that there was some real change there. Because some of these people were behavior problems before they went into meditation. They weren't when they came out.
Almost to a man, there was something behind their eyes that you couldn't get in. There was like this curtain hanging. And then when the course was over, you could see inside. I can't say what the course did for each of them for the rest of their lives, but in 10 days, you could see inside them. They were there. You could see that they were there, whereas before they weren't there. You couldn't see them. And I really think that the women will be able to do that too, particularly the women we got going through the course this time. I think that that to be able to see them is going to be really marvelous.
There was a wager among some security staff over how many women would actually complete the course. No one bet on all 7. But on the 10th day, when course participants can break their silence, 7 women residents emerged, successful. Yet despite all appearances, these were not the same women that started the course a week and a half earlier. There was something perceptibly different about them. Maybe it was that you could see them now, and they could see themselves.
I love myself today. I do.
Kind of an unusual feeling.
It's a wonderful feeling. And these tears are really tears of happiness. They really are. Because the woman that I was in battle with all my life. And I've learned to love her today. And it feels wonderful. And Vipassana did that for me. And I was really kind of fearful. But the things that came up for me were not the things that I was fearing would come up. Or maybe because of the technique involved, I was able just to really handle it, you know. And it was things that I'd been running from all my life. And it was just right there in my face, and I had to look at it, observe, you know, and let it go. And I've been able to do that. And it really, I mean, there's such a peace and such a weight lifted. I can't tell you.
And all my counselors, anyone I've ever have talked to has always said, Carol, you're in your head, you know, get inside. And so last time I was here and in my sobriety, I've really tried to work on that. And this was, you know, definitely an experience where you're inside, you're feeling the sensations. When I get into a tense situation, even just within the dorm, when situations, I've come in a couple of confrontations with people, and it's like, okay, how am I really feeling? What's going on inside? Where's, you know, the heart's beating faster? Just real conscientious of that. So when I get in those situations on the outside, I know that it'll all pass. In '94, I had my dad and my sister pass away 6 days apart. Since then, I felt there's been a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt. A lot of wondering, you know, why, questions, and then just things about me. And I've really, you know, when I was here last time, I did a lot of grief work, and that was very beneficial to me. And it just so happens that tomorrow, March 7th, my dad would have turned 75 years old if he was still here. So this is kind of it's been real spiritual for me as well, because I know that this is, he'd be very proud.
Like the men who took the first course, the women were honored with a graduation ceremony. Friends, family, invited NERF residents, and corrections officials were in the audience to celebrate the women's accomplishment.
One day I had got up and I wasn't feeling well, and I went to Kathy and I told her I'm not feeling well, and I said, after this hour meditation, I want to go back to 17 North now. She looked at me and said, Shalia, well, won't you just give it one more hour? I looked at her like, I said, okay, Kathy, okay. So I gave it one more hour. Then later on, Lucia came, and I grabbed her hand and I said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And Lucia said, I know how you feel, because during my course, I packed my bags also and was ready to go. And then something stopped me. And she talked me into staying. And right now, I'm glad that I did stay and continued the course. I benefited a lot out of it. My choice of drugs was crack cocaine. And during these 10 days, I did not crave for crack cocaine.
My name is Velma Waina. I felt overwhelmed, you know, over everything that happened, you know. I mean, I felt so many feelings, negative and positive, and it changed me. It really did. I mean, when I first came to jail, you know, I mean, it was just like any other time that I came to jail, you know, I mean, when this time's over, you know, I can't wait to get back outside, because when I get back outside, I'm going to go back and do the same thing, you know. But before I go on, you know, with more, I want to tell my mom, you know, how grateful I am that she's here with my son and her husband, and I'm really grateful that he brought me into this world, and I'm happy that I'm alive today, you know. I really am. I mean, God, you know, before I thought, man, I mean, when I was, you know, out getting high and drinking, you know, I mean, I thought that's the way to die, you know. I mean, this is the way I'm going to die, you know. I'm going to die of an overdose, I mean, because that's the way it was, you know. I mean, you never thought about how good life could be. When I went through this course, that's what, you know, it made me look at, that you could get through them bad times. You don't have, I mean, like me, I didn't have to go out and use drugs or go out and get drunk or just go out and do whatever I wanted. And now I could, you know, I don't have to go out and get high and go get a beer or whatever, you know. I could face it, you know. I don't have to, you know, say, oh, you know, well, forget it, you know, and let's just go get drunk or let's go get high, and, you know. It don't fix anything. I noticed that, you know. I thought it did, you know. But it don't, and all that stuff that I had, you know, all that misery that I had, it came out, and I felt really, you know, I felt good. I mean, I didn't know I was that miserable, you know, but I was pretty miserable.
Let's go right here where the flowers are. Where the flowers are. Right here, right here. Right here.
Questions still remain. Have these inmates really changed? Are they finished being inmates? The answer, of course, lies within each individual. Although dramatic changes can and do occur, so can setbacks. It's important to realize Vipassana is progressive along a sometimes uneven path of transformation. NERF staff, however, have seen enough to be optimistic.
The first course was a very strong course. The men in that course worked very, very hard, and of course with this population, these guys have a lot of pain in their lives, and so it was very difficult for them. But out of the 16 that started, 11 finished the course. They came out of the course, most of them feeling that they had learned a lot about themselves. There was one gentleman on the course that had had a lifetime of attention deficit disorder, never able to stay still, had gotten into drugs and alcohol just to calm him down. He came out saying, I have never felt better in my life. If my friends could see me now, they'd be sure I was on drugs. But I'm not. I feel great. Another guy in the course that had been to jail 45 times, and he is now has had a job. He actually helped serve on this this women's course. He worked in the kitchen, and it's changed his life. His mother was so impressed with him that she has taken a course now. So there have been big changes in some of these people.
I think when you see something, a group like this, getting the results that it seems to be getting, and I understand it's still early, and you know, we're still waiting on the results. But what I saw, the immediate result was less behavior problems. Well, that's enough for me.
A lot of the recovery efforts that these women have made in the past have been very sincere efforts, and sometimes with the thought that if I just try hard enough, it will happen. If I listen to the experts closely enough and do everything that they say, then I won't feel these cravings anymore. I won't get swept up in this lifestyle anymore. I won't make these dumb decisions anymore. And if it were just a matter of effort and desire, they would all be better, you know. Because it only takes a few times to jail, one time to lose your children, a few times to get beaten up by a John or something of that nature, to know that that's not what you want, and to begin trying. So it wasn't that these women hadn't made efforts, and it was that they didn't have a way. And Vipassana gave them a way. It gave them a tool. It gave them a choice. Now, I'm not for a minute saying that they will always make the right choice from now on, but they have a choice now, and they didn't have one before.
What I got out of this course, though, was how to deal without reacting. Because I was a person who just reacted off any little thing set me off. And another good thing I'd learned about that I'm taking out of here is craving. Craving, good or bad. And just the tools I got out of the course is just going to stick with me for the rest of my life now. And I'm glad I did it.
Every time you engage an incarcerated individual in any kind of a personal development process where you're saying you're going to change, you know, we're going to give you the opportunity and an environment in which change is likely, you're taking a risk. Change is risky. Change makes people nervous. It brings out all their turbulence that is just under the surface. It challenges you to reach out in ways that may be a little risky, to blur the boundaries, the distinctions a little bit. If you want change to occur, you got to take some risks. So you're constantly weighing risk-benefit. And it goes back to your sense of your mission. Why are we here? And as far as I'm concerned, I'm here to serve the public, to provide the public with something that returns these individuals to the community in a healthier, more wholesome state than they were before.